Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So today we're going to talk about how to file taxes for an LLC. I get this question all the time and I see it in Facebook groups all the time, especially this time of year. So whether you have an LLC or not, this does apply to you because you're doing the exact same thing as a sole proprietor or a single member LLC when it comes to taxes. Now, today I'm going to talk about what to do as a single member LLC. If you have multiple members, this will not apply to you. If you have multiple members, or I should say this may not apply to you. It all depends. So if you do have that, consult with your accountant or stay tuned for an upcoming episode because you may be treated as a partnership if you have multiple members. And I will get into more detail on that later in this episode in terms of what does it mean to elect different tax treatments as an LLC. So we'll get into that. But assuming that if you're listening to this right now, you're a sole proprietor, meaning you haven't filed any business entities with your state, or you're a single member LLC operating within your state, this is for you. So let's start by breaking down the two ways that your business is seen. One way is with your state, and one way is with the IRS. When you form an LLC, you're creating a legal entity in the eyes of your state. You're going to have legal liability protection, that separation that we all talk about. However, the IRS considers an LLC to be what's known as a disregarded entity when it comes to your taxes. A disregarded entity is basically a cloak of invisibility. You still get the liability protection on a legal level, and lawyers love LLCs for this reason and all the benefits they provide. But as a tax professional, I can not tell the difference between a sole proprietorship and a single member LLC on a tax form. There are lots of benefits to the LLC, don't get me wrong, and I'm a huge fan of them. And you'll want to consult with a lawyer, though, to ensure that it's the right strategy for you and to get your LLC filed. Now, when it comes to your taxes, it's actually much simpler than most folks want to make it out to be. So your individual tax return. So if you go to file your individual tax return every April 15th, and you work with a tax professional to do that. Maybe historically you've just had a few W-2s, maybe a couple of things here and there, maybe some investments, whatever it may be, right? So relatively simple tax return. Now you're inserting this business into the tax return, and you might be thinking, oh God, what do I do? How do I file business taxes? How do I handle all of this, which is going to complicate my situation this year? This will answer your question. So it's actually much simpler than you think. If you want to look at your tax return as the book or the story of how you spent the year with your money, right? Then all this means is you're adding a chapter to the book. You're adding a chapter to your individual tax return book. As a single member LLC or sole proprietorship, you do not file a separate business tax return. All you have to file is a couple pages. It's called the Schedule C, C as in Charlie. And the Schedule C provides information on the income you earned, expenses that you plan to deduct, and it calculates your profit. It also goes through your cost of goods sold, your home office, I believe, and your vehicle. So it goes through the different ways that you are basically earning and spending money as a business owner. So this part of your story can be done by the same accountant who's doing your personal tax return. You do not need a separate accountant to do business taxes, as there's really no separate business filing on a federal level for these types of businesses. So as a single member LLC or a sole proprietorship, you are just fine doing things the way you have been doing and using your former preparer. All they have to do is really add a couple pages into your tax return. Now, here's the thing though. If you have an accountant that is doing your personal, I get this question all the time as to whether their current CPA can also handle the business taxes. I hear all the time from folks who are DMing me, hey, I have a CPA, but I feel like they just don't get my business, or they just don't get what I'm doing, or they just don't get what, and that's totally possible. However, I mean, most can handle a Schedule C, but the Schedule C and the, LLC or sole proprietorship can usually add just enough complexity that I would recommend, this is just me, my opinion, I would recommend graduating from storefronts and software. You know what I'm talking about? Graduate from the storefronts and software if you have business income, beyond a couple $1,000s. So if you just started your business at the end of the year, you can get away with using the same CPA or same accountant, but you really want to make sure that you're forming a relationship with a professional at the point where you're starting to really grow your business, because you want to have that person in your court. You want to have that person you can go to. You don't want to be going to Minute Clinic when you realize that you may have a complicated health problem. You want to be going to a professional that you know and trust and that knows you, knows your body, knows your health, knows your family, knows your history, right? So when we talk about like your primary care physician, we want you to have a professional like that that's looking at your taxes, your strategies, your money as a business owner. And that's where we get into CFO, tax strategist, and all these things, right? That's what we try to be as financial solutions for you. We want you to have that resource readily available to help you. But like I said, until you get to that point where you're really growing, you can definitely utilize the resources that you've already been using. Every year, you're required to file your individual return by typically April 15th. You can extend it to October 15th, and those are the usual deadlines. It's the same exact deadline as your personal. Now, keep in mind that most states also require you to renew your LLC annually and to file what's called an annual report with your state. Now, every state is a little bit different. I live in Connecticut, so I happen to know their process very well. And I also used to have an LLC in Massachusetts, so I do know a little bit about these processes. And this is usually nothing more than you telling the state, the Secretary of State, when you renew, you're just telling them, yep, I'm still in business. I still exist. I'm still here, you know, giving them a sign of life and paying the fee and then just carrying on. There is no real tax filing. You don't have to do anything too crazy. I think some states do require you to actually disclose your revenue and expenses, but very rarely. So it's really just kind of a renewal. So that is independent completely of your income taxes. So when you go to file your taxes with your federal and state tax returns, you are filing your income taxes to declare what types of income you earn, including business income, over the course of the year. So that includes your salaries from W-2 jobs, that includes your 1099s, that includes all these different things, right? All pooled together in that one book that we talked about. Again, you may have to pay annual fees, you may have to do annual reports for your states, but that is unrelated to your income taxes. I believe the fees, I've seen them go up to $800 in California, $500 is pretty high in Massachusetts. Other than that, you're looking at $100 and below for, I'd say, most states. Make sure you understand the expectations of these LLC renewals and that you know when they're due. Mark your calendar for sure. And by the way, your accountant, unless they are specifically told that they are doing that for you, probably aren't doing that for you. So if you are an LLC or you have an LLC in your home state, double check your status. You can actually log into your state's website and do a quick search, and you can find your name and you can see the standing of your business. So if you're in good status, if you're up for renewal, or if you're delinquent, you'll know by looking at that search. So that's just a little tip for you to make sure that you're keeping up to date with your LLC. So if you have one, make sure you're maintaining it. Now, if you have an LLC at the state level and you want to do a tax election to be taxed as a C Corp or an S Corp, you can absolutely do that. Now, I recommend go back to the episode series we did on S Corps to learn about when that makes sense for you. And what that does is that lets you continue as an LLC in your state, but it allows the IRS to recognize you as a corporation for tax purposes. So again, going back to the beginning of this episode where I said there are two different ways everyone looks at you, right? You're like that. I hate to use this example, but you're like that. Remember that dress that we all fought over? It was like, it's blue and black. No, it's white and gold, right? Remember that? The IRS sees you as blue and black. The state sees you as white and gold. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's wrong. But you have to know who's looking at you and how they see you. So when you go to file your taxes, you're a disregarded entity, but at the state level, they do recognize you as that legal entity. So just make sure you're aware of that. And when you go to file your tax election, the IRS completely sees you differently as a corporation, which can sound super confusing, but It's really not. Your accountant can absolutely help you with this. So, being a business owner at the end of the day affords you a lot of opportunities to reduce your taxable income and to deduct your expenses. Now, while the tax filing itself is pretty simple, I mean, this episode is super short because I'm telling you, file a Schedule C if you're a LLC or a sole proprietorship. It's that simple. But this is really designed to kind of calm you down over the feelings you may have over, oh my God, what do I do? How do I file business taxes? What does that mean for my taxes? I don't want to start a business because it's going to complicate my taxes. It's not. It's really, really not. It's very easy for us to take on a brand new business owner with a Schedule C, as long as you've got good record keeping, you've got a good grasp of your numbers, you have that separate business bank account, all of the different elements that I talk about all the time as the building blocks of a new business. You want to make sure you have that in place, and that will make the tax process seamless. You adding a business does not add complexity, but you adding a business and then not having proper hygiene in that business will add complexity, will add fees, will add a few headaches and a lot of emails with your accountant. So at the end of the day, just make sure that you're maintaining it in the right way. And that's what we're here to help with, by the way. So go back and listen to the episodes, get the right guidance, follow me on social media, do all of these things that you can do to educate yourself on what's needed for these different types of entities so that you can maintain them. Because I'm telling you, they are worth it. They are absolutely worth it to have a business and to be able to take advantage of those incentives that the government puts out there for you to be a business owner is well worth it. So again, LLC or sole proprietorship, very, very simple. It's a Schedule C. You're going to be putting all of your income and expenses on that. You want it to be as organized as possible. And I recommend, by the way, find a Schedule C. You can Google it, or I'll put a link in the show notes. And you can see what types of categories there are, what you can write in. This is what your accountant's going to have to do. So the easier you can make it to compile that sheet for them, the more they're going to love you. So let your accountant know that you looked into that and ask them how they need it presented, and you'll be good to go. And if you're wondering, okay, when should I be thinking about upgrading? When should I be thinking about, when am I ready for the next level of service from a professional? I would say when you're in true growth mode as an LLC or sole proprietorship, if you are growing rapidly in your business at a high pace, or you just feel like you're doing too many things to keep track of the numbers and you're just feeling like, wait a minute, I'm not doing what I could be doing. I'm not hitting my full potential. And I feel like I'm overpaying in taxes because I can't keep this organized. Then that's when you should give a professional a call. And the reason I bring that up is a lot of folks think that just adding the business is complex. It's not. But adding a business where you don't have a good grip on the numbers is what makes it complex. So make sure you have all that stuff organized, and make sure that you are paying attention to the required due dates and the other items that are required for an LLC to maintain it at the state level, and you'll be good to go. So from a tax perspective, I'm going to give you some solace in the fact that I don't care if you have an LLC or a sole proprietorship. I mean, I care, but I don't see it any differently. So remember that you're not really adding a ton of headaches to your accountant's life just by starting a business. In fact, we're really happy for you. So with that, let me know if you have any questions on this episode. If you had this question yourself and this helped answer it, do let me know. Follow me on social media. Shoot me a DM. My handle is at Shannon K. Weinstein. All right. I will see you on the next episode. Hey there, are you looking for more tax and accounting help for your small business, but tired of the confusing jargon or feeling judged for your questions? This is exactly why we created a completely free Keep What You Earn community centered around this podcast. This community is a space to ask questions, hop on our monthly connection calls, and explore more information about our episodes and our guests. Click on the link in the show notes to join us in this month's call to chat with me and our other guest experts. See you there. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me.
We'll see you on the next episode.